Welcome to the Krista Escamilla Show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Krista Escamilla Show. I hope that you are having a fantastic day wherever you're at in your day. If it's morning, well, I hope it's a good morning. If it's night, I hope you had a fantastic day. So thanks for being here. We love that you are choosing us with your time. We want to welcome our special guest today. I'm so excited for you to hear her story, Dr. Becky Spurlock. And Dr. Spurlock is the Senior VP for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management. Did I get it all in?
You sure did.
Yes. Thank you so much. And and I'm going to call you Becky if that's okay.
Please do.
But she is a doctor, so I just want all you to know that. Becky, thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to hear your story because we recently got to hear you. You know, you do keynote speeches, you are a public speaker, and you are just amazing on the stage. And I thought, I have got to hear her story and learn more about her and get to know her because you are so amazing. Tell us a little bit about, just your journey here to West Texas.
Yeah. I love West Texas. It's been a fabulous journey to get here. I'm from small town Texas. I'm from, I always say, the 100 miles between Austin and San Antonio. I was born in Austin. I lived on the Air Force Base before it was the Bergstrom Airport.
Okay.
Every time I fly into Austin and I see the old Air Force Tower, I have flashbacks to my childhood.
See, I didn't even know that was an old Air Force base.
It was. Okay. I lived there on McCork Street. Okay. And then we moved to Lockhart, and I finished up. I did high school in Lockhart, and then went to college in San Marcos, and then really stayed in that same area, ultimately making my way to San Antonio. So that 100 miles is really home for me. And I'm the first in my family to go to school, and so you
same way. I'm the same.
So when you say
yes.
Dr. Spurlock, I still giggle inside a little. It's sometimes I think, do they mean me?
Right. I love that.
Although I went to school for a very long time.
Well, you have to get that title, and a well-deserved title. I have to say. What did you study in undergrad? Then what was your progression? What made you decide you wanted to be a doctor?
Yeah, bless Southwest Texas, now Texas State, but at the time Southwest Texas. I really walked in there totally unprepared. I had no family support. I'd really been on my own for quite some time, and they really scooped me up and saw that I needed help, and it was just the kind of college that could help people like me, and they did, and I thought college was the coolest place I'd ever been, which is why I continue to work in one. I think it's still true. And so I majored. I knew pretty early in my college journey that I wanted to stay working in colleges because I just thought it was incredible.
And it made such an impact on your life.
Made such an impact. Yeah. The things that they did, I came into college, I didn't do super well in high school. Okay, but I struggled, and they saw that and put me into programs that supported me, and the people that were leading those programs really adopted me and changed my life dramatically. So I ended up studying recreational administration in my undergrad, and then I went on to get a master's in counseling and student affairs, and then a PhD in educational administration from Texas A&M ultimately. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations, because I know the journey from first day in college to graduating, and becoming a doctor was a lot. What did you learn in that time that, really still holds true to this day that you are like, that really impacted my life the most?
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time that, going to college and getting out of college really has not that much to do with how smart you are. It has an awful lot to do with how hard you're willing to work and how much you want it.
Yeah.
And that you also need help. Everybody needs help. Everybody needs help. And colleges are full of help.
Yes.
Much more help than many students or families even realize before they get there.
How do they find that help? Because I think a lot of people are scared to ask for it.
Yeah.
And especially, and you sound like you were in the same boat with me. I didn't have anyone that had gone to college in my family. So I would just go into the counselor's office and just ask questions because I didn't know anything. And a lot of times you're scared to ask those questions, but that answer could really catapult you to becoming a doctor. If you just have to ask the questions.
For sure. Well, I would say, one of the reasons I came to West Texas well, obviously I came here because UTPB recruited me. But, what I tell our students at UTPB is that there is no wrong front door to help, and that's the ethos of our institution. Mm-hmm. So we don't want people to feel like they have to know which door to walk in. Just walk in a door and tell somebody what you're wondering, and we will help you or get you to the people that can help you. And the one piece of advice I give every student that comes through orientation, I say, I could give you 20 pieces of advice, but I think you'll just remember one.
It's true.
Here
That's
it is.
true.
Here it is. Don't suffer in silence.
That's a good one.
Just tell somebody. Just tell somebody. You don't, even if you don't know what it is. If you think nobody can help you, just tell somebody.
That is so important, because a lot of the time we just hold it inside, right? And you think, well, it's just me. I'm the only one going through this. But if you just ask someone or talk to someone, you don't have to be suffering like that.
No, and problems generally only get bigger when we ignore them. Mm-hmm. And I tell students all the time, we can help you at any point in the process, but we can detangle that problem a whole lot easier if we catch it back here instead of over here. And so, I think there were people in my life who saw that I needed help and asked me good questions and often stepped in. So many people really took care of me, and including the president at then Southwest Texas State.
That's incredible, because you think the president, right? The president doesn't have time to talk to me or what, but that president made a big impact. Did they say something, or was there a piece of advice given to you at that time that you still remember? That, I think all of us have this little this little spot in our mind where we go back to, someone gave me that piece of advice and I've never forgotten it.
Yeah.
Is there a piece of advice you were given?
I don't know, from that time of my life. I'll have to think about that. I think the gift of my youth, Krista, was that I didn't know what I didn't know. Thank goodness,
yes.
Right? Because it didn't prevent me.
Yes.
If I had known how hard it might have been or how much it was ultimately going to cost, or, just the difficulty of the process, I probably would have opted out. But I was incredibly naive.
Yeah.
I didn't have a TV for a good portion of my growing up. I was from rural Texas. I'd seen nothing. I'd been nowhere. And while that was hard, you couldn't believe it when I got to college and found out that somebody would bring food to your room.
You're like, what? They do this?
I had no idea.
They deliver?
It was incredible.
I love that. But you don't know what you don't know.
I didn't know anything. Yeah. I'd never been on a plane. I'd never been out of the state. I had been out of the state briefly because we lived briefly in an Air Force base in California, but that was it.
Yeah.
I'd seen nothing.
Right. What advice would you give to someone that is maybe, kind of in the same boat, and that they think that is an unobtainable goal to become a doctor, or to whatever it may be that is that unobtainable, I can't even talk today, unobtainable goal. There we go, got it out. That they think in their mind, but you would tell them, you can do it.
Yeah, you can do it. So, I gave another keynote this last week in Austin, and I joked a little about, two important pieces of advice that I learned from Frozen 1 and 2.
Oh, good movies, by the way. Love them both.
I was like, let it go.
Let it go.
Right? And you just have to do the next thing, the next best thing. And that was an important lesson. I think so often people try to figure out the whole puzzle. They try to figure out all the steps. Well, I need to know not just step 1, but step 67. And when you try to figure out all the steps, you're trying to control it. And frequently that is discouraging. It doesn't, you think it's going to help you see the future, but usually it helps you see roadblocks.
Yes.
And discourages you. So I really talk to young folks about, like, just what is the next best thing for you? What's the next right thing to do? And then you have to trust that there's going to be another opportunity for you to do the next best thing. And it might be something different. So you don't have to figure it all out.
Right.
Just do the next thing, and then know you're going to have a chance to do the next thing after that. And one foot in the front of the other, and you'll be surprised at how far you can get.
I love that. I love that you quote Frozen.
Yes.
I quote Dory all the time. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. From Finding Nemo. And I'm like, it's okay. It's a great quote. You just sometimes need to keep swimming. So
that is exactly
let
right.
it go. And the next best thing.
Next
I
best
love
thing.
it.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's right.
I want to talk a little bit more about the journey in UTPB. But first, I want to mention I met you at the West Texas Women's Symposium, which was amazing. The Midland Chamber of Commerce put this on this year. It was so wonderful to see so many women coming together to learn and grow and support each other and make connections. And you said something that day that still sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
You know which one I'm talking about?
I sure do.
Well, I'm going to let you say it then, because you're going to say it better than me. But I will never forget this when trying to make a decision. So
that's right.
Go ahead, take it away.
That's right. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Yes.
And I didn't live that way for a long time. I think growing up without resources and without support, I think I scrapped my way through things and sort of looked for every little, crack in the sidewalk I could get a hold in. And
right.
But as I've grown and really become more comfortable with who I am, and I've learned that really the only way to live is to be sure. Your time is your most precious, non-renewable resource. Mm-hmm. And so why spend any time on something if it's not a hell yes? And we know, right? We know
your gut. We talked about that. You know how your stomach does that flip when you know something is not good. You're like, you feel it, and that's what you're talking about. That's if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
And I think women in particular are often conditioned to ignore that.
Yes,
right, because we want to be polite, we want to be helpful, and we want to be kind, and we can be all those things and authentic to ourselves.
I love that. Let's talk about authenticity because I think it is so important. And, I think that day I quoted Brene Brown because I love quotes, for those of you who don't know, which you probably do if you're listening to this podcast, because I do quotes every single day. But there's something to be said for authenticity. But it's something I feel that we learn now as we get older. But I want the younger generation to learn it at a younger age so they don't suffer like we did through that. Yeah. Is there any piece of advice you would give to someone about authenticity and how they could really hone into that?
Yeah, it is interesting because isn't it great? This is why we spend time with young people, because they are unabashedly who they are until other people convince them not to be, right?
So
or the world convinces them not to be, or they get messages. And that's that middle part, right, of that adolescence and into the young adulthood. And you try to hold them during that time so that when they get out through the other side that they remember, who they are. And, so I think the good news is that, I work with young people every day. And I think this generation is better at holding on to their truth about who they are.
I love that.
But I think the one thing I would say about it is most people, when they're not authentic to who they are, it's because of fear. Mm. And typically that fear is people won't like it. They won't like me. I'll do something wrong. And I think what most people that figure out is actually it goes the other way. Mm. That when you show up, however you are, whoever you are, into a space, you're giving the people around you permission to be who they are too.
I love that. That is so true. And I think that once you realize that, life is just so good. It is so, right? And you can really enjoy the moments that for what they are instead of being so worried about what you're going to say or how they're going to interpret me or if they're going to like me. Right. And then that allows them, like you said, to be themselves. And there's just this then openness, and that's what I really loved about the other day with having so many women together. I feel like there was just such a support and encouragement and we're all in this together. Let's help each other out. We're not competition. I love, before we were on camera, you said you're not a competitor, but you're competing with time.
That's right. I compete with time every single day, and I like to win a lot. And so I sure do compete against time.
What does that mean to you? Because I love that. I just think I've never thought of it that way, but it's so true. We only have a certain amount of time in the day. And you were saying you'd love to be on an airplane because that's your time.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
I love that. And I think if we all look at time as a precious commodity that it is, that we will appreciate it a little bit more in those moments.
That's right. I like to think about time and timing are not the same thing. Mm-hmm. The increment of time is a choice that we all make. And so I've decided sometime along the way to make my measurement of time based in human connection and relationship. So that's how I mark my day. Did I have a genuine connection with somebody? Did I share a moment? Did I look somebody in the eye? Consequently, this means that I make friends with strangers all day long, and that's really one of my favorite things.
I love it.
But I compete against time, and I joke. Actually, I talk about this in one of my keynotes, and I actually joke because I say, well, actually, when I win, I lose. So I think if you know me, you'll know if there's space for 2 things, I will squeeze 3 in.
I love it.
If there's 4 things on the list, I will inevitably find a way to try to put 2 more in. And so there's charms and challenges to it, right? I get a lot done in a day. I have big expectations. I dream big. I push. I joke that I lose because usually at the end of the day, you can't outrun your day.
Right.
And if you have spent your whole day in hyper mode, like I sometimes do, when I lay down at night, what happens?
The heart. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to.
That's
yes,
right. It's exactly right. That's right. Don't. That's exactly right. So that's when I joke. I'm like, well, I thought I won today, but turns out, no.
Because now there's even more on my plate for tomorrow because I added 5 more things.
That's right.
How do you balance it all? What is the key?
Yeah. Well, there's so many things. I have an amazing team that I work with. I have colleagues and the folks on my team in student affairs and enrollment management. But I have an incredible team at home, and I really like to talk about this, particularly to other women, because one thing that's invisible, if you don't know me, is Jeff Munkowski, my husband.
Oh.
And so he's quiet. He's in the background. For all the spotlight I love, he absolutely does not. But, I often say about Jeff that he shaped his life so I could find meaning in mine.
That's beautiful.
So he makes it work. He is the one far more likely, absolutely will get the kids up and make my morning tea. And walks me to the car with all my things and essentially puts me in the car.
I think we married the same person. My husband does the same thing for me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my husband too. He's the same way. He's the quiet one behind. He's the one behind the cameras right now, right? He's in the other room.
That's right.
And that allows you to do what you love to do.
Right.
And so shout out to our husbands. Hi, sweetie. He just walked in. There's a beauty to that you support him and he supports you. And I think that's important in a marriage and any relationship.
That's right.
Is to be that supportive, however they need to be supported.
That's right.
Because I love it when he carries my stuff out to the car because I'm running out the door with 3 bags, my Yetis, my everything, but he just walks it out. Nice and peaceful.
Every morning, makes sure, puts me in the car, checks the day, probably hands me lunch, takes care of things, helps me with things. And he has a fabulous career of his own. But I always say we're a good match because I'm a person that needs a lot of help and he's a person who likes to give help. And so, and our kids. The reality is my family has been raised on college campuses. And so my last night I worked there was a Halloween event at the LMLK Center and I gave out candy at the Junior League booth and my 15-year-old son came with me and some of the ladies were commenting after and I said, listen, this kid's been raised on a college campus. He knows how to work a table. He will check you into your residence hall. He knows how.
I love it.
So
I love it.
My kids
He's
are
just
also
like your
part of it.
husband. He's that helper and gets out. So high five to Jeff out there and to your kids for work. I love that because that teaches them the way to give back as well.
That's right.
And I don't know, and I'm sure you would agree with me on this. There is this feeling when you're on a college campus. I love it. When you're on there, you just feel this peace and learning and growth and pouring into kids. And what is it that you love about the job you get to do?
Yeah. Well, I tell other adults all the time, like, you're having a bad day. Let me take you to lunch in our cafeteria because you're going to leave feeling better about the world.
Yes.
When you spend time with young people, sometimes you're like, oh, the news and everything's wrong and nothing's ever going to be right again. And then you spend time with young people and you're like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
They
it's
got
gonna
it.
be okay.
They got it. It's
We're,
okay.
we're worried for nothing. They've got this.
They've got this. So, I love developing other folks. I love pouring into them, giving them opportunities. I came specifically to UTPB after working for about 15 years in selective private institutions because I wanted to work at a college that was about the community, that was about first generation students, that was about creating access and affordability where there wasn't some. You know, the last place I worked was $70,000 a year. You know,
There's a big difference.
There's
yeah.
a big difference. And this was a deliberate choice because I know the power of what education can do in your life. And so that's how I want to spend my day. But, you know,
I love that.
I just love it. I mean, you know, young people will, and students, and actually we work with students of all ages at UTPB, and they all teach me something. You know, they're honest. You know, I'm in a community of everybody who's trying to do something with their life. And that creates a certain amount of energy and momentum that allows you the grace to step into somebody's life in a moment and play a role. And then I've done this now for 25 years. So I have 25 years of former students out there.
That must feel good.
Yeah, I have an incredible network. I didn't know that one of the great joys of my life would be getting to this point. I turned 50 this year to have all these former students. And then there's nothing I love more than deploying that network for my current students.
Yes.
You know?
Connecting them.
Yeah, so a student wants to work at NASA, I know somebody.
Yeah.
They want to work in the FBI, I know somebody. They're interested in forensic accounting, I know somebody.
That's awesome. And what a gift, what a blessing you are to them and they are to you. But to see that when you can have a full circle moment with two of your students too, I mean, that is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, your heart must be so full at the end of the day.
You know, I always tell a student the greatest gift you can give me is keeping me in your life after you graduate, right? You know, I'll work my way in there when you're in school. You can't avoid me, right? And so, but when students choose to keep me in their life after they graduate, it's such a beautiful thing. So I was just in Austin at another event, and I met up with two of my former students who live there now. They were students of mine from a university in Tennessee, and it's been about 10 years that I've known them. And again, just sharing that space with them and catching up on their lives. I've been to weddings and baby showers, and you know, it's an incredible gift, and it's a gift I just didn't know was coming for me. Right. I'm so grateful.
Oh, I love that. I hate to stop the conversation. We have to do our quote of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a fun thing we do.
Okay.
You just pick out a quote. I'm just gonna mix them up randomly. Okay. And we will see what it means to you. Which card did you get? The Grow card.
The Grow card, of course.
I love it.
I never lose. I either win or learn. Nelson Mandela. It's perfect.
What a perfect quote for you.
That's
what does
perfect.
that mean? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, you know, it makes me actually think of Dolly Parton. I love Dolly Parton.
I do too.
I love her so much. And I lived in Tennessee for 10 years, so I feel like I got to know Dolly on a different level because she's so present in the state in so many ways. And my daughter sent me a video of an old clip of her the other day, and she said, you know, I just think when you come from nothing, you just try something. And you know, I'm not very afraid because wherever I end up, it's going to be different than where I was, and it's not going to be worse. And I think that's how I approach every day too, is that, you know, and I think maybe because I like to win, I really do I don't ever frame anything in terms of a loss. I think of it as a learning, right? It's, you know, it's an opportunity to say, well, I didn't get that right, but here's what I learned for next time.
Right.
And I think it's so important to set a growth mindset, you know, for you. I think students forget. I love to tell students stories about my own experience because, you know, Becky didn't do great in college. Let me just tell you right now. I think I graduated, my undergraduate was something like a 2.7. I remind them that sometimes D's get degrees. You know,
that used to be my motto.
You know,
I love that.
I mean, I got a D in college algebra after failing it once. I failed the same class in college twice. It wasn't for me. Why I went back for it a second time, I'll never know.
Because you wanted to win it. You were like, I am going to beat this class.
And it wasn't for me, you know, and you know, and of course by the time, and then I went on to get a master's, and I went on to go to a top program in the nation. So, you know, I think people think sometimes they look at you as a package, as a finished product, and think, you know, you have it all figured out, or you did it all.
Right.
I sure didn't. I did not do academically well for a long time. I just struggled to get through. You know, I wasn't sure about what I was doing always, you know, and I think it's really important for people to tell those stories because because people think they're the only one. We all live in our own heads. We're all the main character in our own head. And we think we're the main character in everybody else's head, but we're really
not.
just a bit player.
Yeah. So true. What is it that there's some saying out there like that people think far less of you than you think that they're thinking of you. Like
100%.
Like once you're gone, like they're then back in their own head, right? And thinking about that. But I love that because one of my mottos right here is dream big, and I feel like you have to dream big because you and I both, it seems like we came from a very similar background where I wasn't supposed to graduate from college. I wasn't, I remember I had someone tell me, it was actually a professor. No, was it a professor? It was either a professor or a student. I can't remember. But they said, you will never be on TV. Only 1% of people that graduate with a communications degree will be on TV. And I took that as, well, why can't I be the 1%? Why can't, I came from that mindset, well, I've got nothing to lose, right? So I'm going to go for it.
That's right.
If they tell me no, well, then they tell me no. And then I'm just going to keep going until someone says yes. But but I think it's important to hear those stories because so many people think that they can't get a degree and become a doctor, especially if you don't have the financial background or support from your family growing up. You just don't even think it's obtainable. But it is, and I love your story because you're here to tell them you can do anything. You can, and you just, little baby Becky didn't know that was going to be the case. I certainly didn't know it when I was a freshman in college, or even when I was a senior. At each stage, and I've heard you say this before, but thank goodness, God dreams bigger for us than we dream for ourselves, and thank goodness because I had a much smaller dream for my life than the one I'm living now. I could not agree more, and I'm so thankful each day that God had a better plan for me than I had for myself, because right. And I think that's on that note, we're going to switch gears here a little bit, but I think that is so important to sink your teeth into sometimes, especially on those days where you're feeling discouraged, and especially on those days when you have a door slammed, and on those days that you don't get that response back that you thought you were going to get, that you were going this way, but nope, you're not supposed to go there. You're supposed to go this way. It's all about the plan. Okay, we have a question of the day now. Okay, so let's see what your question of the day is. And then we're going to talk more UTPB, because I want everyone to know about this wonderful institution that we have. I just love it so much. Okay. Do you believe in giving people second chances, and why? Absolutely. Third chances, fourth chances, Well, first of all, I've been the beneficiary of lots of chances, thank goodness, and I never lose sight of that. And when I work with young folks, especially, the reality is sometimes people stumble, and we certainly see sometimes conduct issues or things that happen. But the beauty of working with folks in college for 25 years is that I really can see what makes a difference and what doesn't. And everybody needs those opportunities, because I tell students, you are going to hit a bump in the road. You're going to hit multiple. It's not the bumps that define you, it's your response to them, and the help and the support that you get. So absolutely. I'll tell you really quickly, these are the moments I live for, but a couple of years ago I was on a plane, and I got on the plane, it was at night, it was kind of dark, and I'm very clumsy, and I dropped my things, and somebody leaned over and helped me, and then I dropped them again, and this person helped me again, and then the lights came on when we got off the plane, and the person that was helping me leaned over, and he said, "Oh my gosh, Dean Spurlock," and I said, "Yes," and he said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "I'm sorry, you'll have to tell me a little bit more." And he said, "Well, you kicked me out of college my freshman year for drugs, and I was very angry with you, but I got my life together, and I'm so happy to see you because I'm about to graduate from law school." Oh, I get teary-eyed thinking of that. It was amazing. It was amazing, and he just said, "I was so angry," which is true. He wrote me the meanest letter. But you had to give him a little tough love, because he was going down the path he shouldn't have been going down. I needed to hold him accountable to our policies, and I did, even though it was hard. But those are the moments you just live for. Absolutely. And what a beautiful, I always call those little God winks. What a beautiful God wink. It was. Yeah. you got to reconnect with him and him with you. It went both ways. I love that.
That's right.
I love that. You also talk about collaborations that in personal relationships are so important. We touched a little bit at the symposium the other day. What do you want people to know the most about connection and collaboration? And there was another C: connection, collaboration, and
well, we talked about the difference between coordination, right? And I think what you have to remember is that everybody wants to be seen, and that relationships are the engine that fuel everything we do. And I think people lose their way and think if they just design the right strategy, or if they, invest in the right software or this or that or whatever, that's going to take care of whatever's next. And it might help you along the way, but I'm here to tell you that all the things that you do in life are fueled by relationships. And I think so often people don't pause to think about the time that you have to invest to make it a real relationship. There's nothing wrong with coordinating. We're going to sit down and have Thanksgiving dinner. You bring the turkey, I'll bring the mashed potatoes.
Right.
And we sometimes call that collaboration. It's not. It's coordination. Nothing wrong with coordination. But collaboration requires that we're in relationship with one another and that we've spent time talking about your goals and my goals and what we want to achieve. And there has to be some overlap. It doesn't have to look like this. It doesn't have to look like this. There just has to be enough that we agree on that we're in that part together. And people want to skip over that part because it's work and it's vulnerable and it takes time. It slows you down and it's hard. But, until people know you and know that you care and know that you're going to show up and that you have a shared value or commitment, you're just not going to go that far.
And I think you said the overlap is what is it, 1%?
I mean, it could just be 1%.
People thought it has to be 50% or it has to be we're all in together. You just have to get that one little common that 1%.
That's right.
And that's when true collaboration happens.
That's right, because people often think to be collaborative we have to agree. No, you don't. In fact, you shouldn't. Right? And so it's okay for there to be differences. You see this way, I see it this way, but on this thing that we're doing together, that's where we sync and align. And people spend a lot of time trying to get, complete overlap. And then when they can't, they get discouraged, they get frustrated, or people comply. I like to also say that if you can't say no, yes has no meaning. So, we don't often give people the chance to say no. We cajole them into saying yes, and then we're surprised when they don't really do what we want.
That's something it took me many years to learn, is what you're saying right there. I was just yes, right? The people pleaser was like, you're going to do it all, and yes. When you can learn to say no, and it's okay. It's like you almost can breathe again.
That's right.
It's like something just kind of happens. Like it's okay. If it's a no, it's okay. It's not like it's going to be the end of the world. And I wish if I could go back and tell my 20-something self that, I think that might be one thing. What would you tell your 20-something self?
I would tell her it's going to be okay. I think I hustled, and I would have told you that to do well in life, you have to be extraordinary. That's what I really thought. I thought all these other people that are doing something, they're extraordinary, and I'm ordinary. And so, I won't be able to do what they do. And I spent a lot of time, consequently hustling for my worth and trying to convince other people that, I could do it. And of course, what I've learned along the way is if you're true to who you are and you work hard, that's really all you need.
That's it.
So I would have said, it's going to be okay.
I love it.
You're going to be okay.
I love that. Okay, we're going to talk now about UTPB because it is such a gem in our community. And if your child is or getting close to those college years, go visit the campus and see all that it encompasses, because it is truly an amazing place. What do you think is the most important thing that you want our community here locally and beyond? Because we have listeners in Brazil, Mexico, found out we had one in Spain, a lot in Australia. So if you could convince someone to come here from wherever you're at in the world, what would be that one reason they should choose UTPB?
Yeah. Well, the thing about UTPB is that we are part of the world-renowned University of Texas system. But we're the smallest academic institution in that universe. And so the personal attention and connection that you get, and we are deeply committed to this region and to doubling the number of credentials that we give, which means we want more people in the pipeline. Texas has 4 million people that have some college and no degree.
Wow.
And we are committed to helping people get additional credentials, whether that's a bachelor's degree, but we're going to be offering additional continuing education, other kinds of credit that people can get. But, I would say we keep our costs low. We keep our relationships high.
I love that.
And we do that because we really are a place of accessibility for folks. And I think if you know somebody that goes to UTPB, I think they'll tell you that when they get to campus, the best thing about it is the community. People show up for one another. Our students take care of each other. Our faculty will know you as a person. You will never be a number. And you'll have access to some of the same programs and opportunities that you would have at UT Austin or UT San Antonio, but you have them on a much smaller, more relationship-oriented place.
Well, I was going to say that provides more of a personal relationship with the teacher-student ratio as well, but yet still getting this amazing education at the same time. But then building those relationships that help you when you get out, because it's all, just like you mentioned, talking to former students, and being able to connect former students with each other. That is the beauty of where, you're at, that you get to do that and get to see it and get to live it. And I think the students here in West Texas really need to look at it as an option when, they're looking for colleges, because it is so amazing. I see the product and I see the people that come out and they love it and they've had a great experience. And I'm like, what a gem in our community.
And it's, we're growing. At a time when enrollments around the country in many areas are shrinking, we're growing. If you haven't heard, we're undertaking a significant new campus transformation. So we've got lots of change physically happening to our campus. We're creating more student-friendly spaces. I think it'll up that kind of college factor and feel to the campus, which is always fun.
Yes.
I hope by now you've heard about our Falcon Free program as part of our commitment to making college affordable. But if you're a family that makes $100,000 or less on your adjusted gross income, you can come to UTPB and get your tuition and mandatory fees covered at 100%.
That's amazing. That truly is amazing right there. I love that, because that, I think, is what holds a lot of people back, right? They say, I can't afford, and I know, and and it sounds like you paid for your own education. I did too, worked 2 jobs, did the whole thing just to get, if I would have had something like that offered, or, back then, oh my goodness, what an amazing blessing for our community to be able to do that.
Students and families don't want loans, and I understand that. I would say, I think, generally speaking, most of the people I meet, and most of our students, by the way, work because they pay as they go, or they, they're very serious. They're like, listen, I want this degree, but I want to be able to finish without debt, and I want to be able to immediately turn that around and make an economic impact in my life, right? I want to make more money. I don't want to be held up. And our the loan debt for students at UTPB is far lower than the national average. And it will only come down in the next couple of years because of this Falcon Free program. And so, we have incredible programs, and we continue to be committed to doing it at a very affordable rate.
And some incredible staff members. I just want to say hi to some former team members of mine that I worked with. I mean, you get to work with Tatum and Alexa, and Dr. Woodley Everett is just amazing. We need to get her here sometime to share her story. I would love to learn more, but you have such an amazing group of people. So if you have any questions about, attending UTPB, please give them a call, go visit, and inquire about Falcon Free, because it is truly a wonderful blessing here. I know we're starting to run out of time, and I have more questions. My first question is, are you going to ever write a book? Because I feel like you have so much knowledge in there. I would read your book. Have you thought about it?
It's funny. This summer, I had somebody approach me and say, I think you should write a book.
I think you should do.
And so I told my family that, and they thought that was a good idea. So they've opened up a shared Google Doc where they are writing down now common story, like the titles of common stories or funny things I've said over the years, and so they're so they have started that and they're like,
I love
Mom,
it.
this is the beginning of your book. So maybe.
I love it. I think you should. I would
Maybe.
read that in a heartbeat. Put me down on Amazon or wherever I have to secure the spot to get the book. So what is your favorite book? Do you have a favorite book that has really influenced your life?
I am a voracious reader, and so choosing a favorite book would be like choosing a favorite child. I would never.
They're all your favorites.
I mean, yes, I read and read and read and read. But also, maybe it would be helpful. So right now I'm reading Anxious People by Frederick Bachman.
Okay, I'm going to write it down.
And Atomic Habits, which is a good one. And I just finished The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. So I tend to intertwine sort of fiction, nonfiction, business, psychology, help, all of the above.
Wonderful. Favorite podcast?
Dolly Saves America.
Dolly Saves. I had no idea Dolly has a podcast. I'm going to go download it right now.
It's not Dolly doesn't, but it's a podcaster who talks about how Dolly Parton is a uniting figure in the United States in a time when people are politically, shifting, that many people can get behind Dolly. Lots of different groups who might be seen in disparate in other ways get behind Dolly Parton. So I love that.
I love that too. I think that is fantastic. I cannot wait. I'm going to go download it right now. So favorite, what else do I have here? Oh, what was your favorite subject in school?
Probably sociology.
Okay.
Yeah. Systems and people,
That's why you're so smart.
Yeah.
Yes, because I see that you have such a good way of understanding people and relationships and some of the topics we talked about today. And so I could see that would be a great background.
Yeah.
So we are running out of time. And so I have to ask you your favorite nonprofit organization here in West Texas so we can give a donation to them on your behalf.
Yeah. So I volunteer regularly at the Jubilee Center.
Okay.
Food and access to food is something that's really important to me as somebody who spent part of her life hungry. And so, I both spend my dollars and my time working to do that. I love Meals on Wheels too. I mean, there's just so many great organizations that give people access to food. That's so important.
Well, definitely, we will make the donation then to Jubilee Center because I think that is definitely because we did Meals on Wheels last week, so we're going to do it.
Perfect.
we're getting both of them shouted out today. I love
Good.
that, and I just cannot thank our nonprofits enough for what they do in our community, and I love that you highlighted the Jubilee Center so that we can give them a little bit more, some shine a light on them. Yeah. We are running out of time. Is there anything that coming into today you're like, I hope that Krista and I get to talk about that, or a subject that maybe we didn't get to cover that you think is important as part of your story?
Well, I'll tell you two things that are not connected. I love to dance.
Oh.
So if you, if you're ever ready
Pardon my alarms.
Yeah. I'm like, so if you're ever looking for somebody to boogie with, you want to have fun, you're somewhere, I'm like, I'll be dancing in the grocery store. I like to dance.
You're our girl. You are our girl. We want to dance.
I love it. Dance. Got to move your body. And then, I thought a little bit about it when you said it earlier, but the quote that I think of most frequently these days is, don't let somebody without an ounce of abracadabra tell you what to do with your magic.
Oh, that's so good.
So
I love that.
And that I got from my Peloton instructor. Shout out Robin NYC.
Shout out Robin.
But I love it. I repeat it all the time to myself.
I love it. Yeah. That is such a good quote. All right, I'm writing that one down and living by that one as well. That is fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today and all the beautiful, wonderful nuggets that you shared with us about your journey and your story. I hope that we have maybe helped someone that is maybe having some questions today, and we can inspire them to go and live that big dream that they want to dream, and they can do it because nothing can stop you. You just have to get out there and don't let a no, get you down.
No,
because it can be a yes the next time around.
It sure can.
Dr. Spurlock, what a treat for you to be here today. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you. If anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
I am very easily found on the interwebs. You can find me on LinkedIn, but Becky Spurlock is it's not a super common name, so any Google search will point you towards either my social media, LinkedIn, or my email address at UTPB.
And I can't wait to read your book someday. I cannot wait. And if not, just share the Google Doc with me in the meantime, because I bet there are some great stories in there. That's fun. Well, thank you, Dr. Spurlock, for spending this time with us today. And thank you for watching and listening. We appreciate you sharing our show and subscribing and sharing it with someone you love. We want to reach as many people as possible. A special thank you to our sponsors, Rig ID, Midland Cap Company, and joincapclub.com. If you'd like to be a sponsor, give us a call. We're always taking a sponsorship, so just let us know. And in the meantime, never ever forget just what an amazing gem that you are, and your story counts, and we can't wait to share it here. And always remember to dream big, believe, and never give up. You make it a great day.